I swear on everything, my last day of high school should have been the best night of my life, but instead, it's the reason I can't sleep with the lights off. Graduation week. You know the vibe: senior pranks, yearbooks getting signed, teachers pretending to be chill for once. I had it all planned. Last day of classes, one more night of freedom, then goodbye forever to the cracked hallways and flickering fluorescent lights of my old school. It was supposed to be closure. It was supposed to feel safe. But it didn't. During the last period, the intercom glitched. Like, instead of the usual announcements, it just screeched, high-pitched feedback that made everyone cover their ears. Then, in between the static, I swear I heard a voice. Just one word: stay. Everybody laughed it off, like some kid hacked the PA system for a senior prank. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt directed at me. After school, we were hanging out by the lockers. The hallways were emptying out, buzzing with that end-of-year energy. But when I went back to grab my hoodie, I realized my entire row of lockers was just open. Every single one. Like someone had gone down the line and unlocked them all. I thought maybe a janitor was doing it. But then I noticed something that made my stomach flip. Inside my locker, scratched deep into the metal back wall, were the words, "You'll never leave." And I swear on my life, it wasn't there that morning. I tried brushing it off. Senior pranks, right? Everyone was messing with everyone. But the more I thought about it, who even knew my locker combination? That's when the lights cut out. The whole hallway dropped into pitch black, except for one flickering bulb at the far end. And standing underneath it, was someone. Not a teacher. Not a student. Just tall. Too tall. And completely still. I blinked, and the bulb went out. When it came back on, the hallway was empty. That night, I had one final thing to do: return a textbook to the library. The building was technically closed, but seniors had access for cleanup. So, stupidly, I went back inside. Walking through the empty halls felt wrong. Like the air itself was heavier. And the silence? It wasn't silence. I could hear breathing. Not mine. Not shallow. Deep. Wet. Like someone was right behind me. When I got to the library, every chair was pulled out. Every single one. As if the entire school had just stood up at once and left. Then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. No name, no photo. Just 4 words. "Don't forget your seat." I dropped the book and ran. The second I hit the hallway, the fire alarm went off, screeching so loud I thought my head would split. The red strobe lights flashed, and in those quick bursts, I saw movement. First flash, empty hall. Second flash, someone crawling on all 4s. Third flash, closer. Too close. Fourth flash, it was right in front of me. It wasn't a student. It wasn't human. Its face looked stitched together, like pieces of different people. And its mouth was stretched too wide, like it had been torn open. I screamed and bolted for the exit. But when I slammed the door open, it wasn't the parking lot outside. It was the gym. The one from freshman year, before they remodeled. The paint, the old bleachers, even the banner with the wrong graduation year, things that shouldn't exist anymore. And on the stage, were rows of chairs. Set up for graduation. All facing forward. All waiting. One chair in the very front had my name taped to it. I don't remember how I got out. I just know I woke up in my car the next morning, parked 2 blocks away. The textbook was gone. But on my back seat, there was a folded-up graduation program. The date printed on it? June 3rd. The problem is, my graduation was June 10th. A week later. And when the real ceremony finally happened, I couldn't stop staring at the front row of chairs. At the empty one with my name on it. I've asked myself every day since then. Did I almost die that night? Or am I already dead, and just haven't realized it yet? Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear it. That same word. Whispered in the static. Stay. I swear to you, my last day of high school was the single scariest night of my life. And no matter how many times I try to explain it, no one believes me. Senior year was supposed to end with laughs, yearbook signatures, and that bittersweet goodbye feeling. Instead, it ended with something I still can't explain. The day itself was normal. Teachers played movies instead of lessons. Friends were running around with Sharpies, writing dumb stuff in each other's yearbooks. We even snuck extra food from the cafeteria just because, who was gonna stop us? Everyone was excited. Everyone but me. See, my school wasn't just old. It was ancient. Like, the kind of place with long hallways that smelled like dust and floor polish, creaky lockers that never fully shut, and stairwells that led to locked doors no one used anymore. Rumors floated around all the time, kids who swore the basement was haunted, or that a girl had died in the science wing years back. Of course, we never took it seriously. Until that night. Our principal decided to do a last night send-off for the seniors. Basically, they let us stay after school until midnight for a lock-in party. Games in the gym, music in the cafeteria, a movie marathon in the auditorium. It sounded fun. At first. Around 10 p.m., me and my 2 friends, Mark and Jenna, wandered away from the group. We just wanted to explore. Senior year tradition, Mark said. We thought it'd be funny to sneak into the old West Wing. That part of the school was shut down years ago. Broken windows, no lights, locked doors. But Mark had swiped a key from his mom, she worked in maintenance. The second we stepped inside, I knew we shouldn't be there. It was freezing. Not like school AC blasting, cold. I mean bone deep, breath in the air cold. And it was quiet. Way too quiet. That's when Jenna froze and whispered. Did you hear that? I didn't. Until I did. A faint knock. 3 slow taps, from inside one of the classrooms. Mark laughed it off, saying it was probably pipes. But Jenna grabbed my arm and whispered, no, it sounded like knuckles. We should have left right then. But Mark was too curious. He pushed the classroom door open. The room was pitch black. Desks flipped over, broken chairs stacked in the corner, a thick smell of mildew in the air. We stepped inside. And that's when my stomach dropped. On the chalkboard, written in messy, shaky handwriting, were the words. Class isn't dismissed. Jenna swore she saw it appear while we stood there. Like, it wasn't there when we walked in. But the second Mark flicked on his phone flashlight. It was gone. Just a blank chalkboard. He laughed. Jenna wanted to leave. And me? I was stuck in the middle. We decided to head back to the party. But when we turned around, the hallway looked wrong. You know when something feels off, but you can't explain why. The hall seemed longer. The doors looked newer. And instead of bulletin boards, there were framed pictures. Old class portraits. The students in them were pale. Blurry. Like their faces were smudged out. Then we saw it. A girl standing at the far end of the hallway. At first, I thought it was another senior messing with us. But she wasn't moving. She was just standing there. Her head tilted too far to one side. Her arms dangling unnaturally low. And she was wearing what looked like an old uniform, like something from the 1950s. Mark called out, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." The girl lifted her hand. Not to wave. But to point. Directly at us. Jenna screamed, and we bolted. But no matter how far we ran, the hallway kept stretching. Every door we tried was locked. The girl was getting closer. Not running, just flickering forward. 1 second at the end of the hall. The next, 10 feet closer. Then 5. I swear I felt her breath on my neck. And then the lights cut out. All I heard was Jenna crying, Mark yelling, and footsteps. Footsteps that didn't belong to any of us. Something brushed against my shoulder. Cold. Sharp. Like fingernails dragging across my skin. And in the dark, right by my ear, I heard a whisper. "Class isn't over." The next thing I remember, I was back in the cafeteria. Mark and Jenna were with me, pale and shaking. No one believed us. They said we probably snuck off, fell asleep somewhere, and dreamed it. But here's the thing. The scratch marks on my shoulder? They were real. And Jenna swears she still sees that girl sometimes. In reflections. In crowds. Watching. As for me, I never went back to that school again. But sometimes, when I'm about to fall asleep, I swear I still hear that same whisper in the dark. Class isn't dismissed. Maybe it was just a stress-induced hallucination. Maybe we were tired, freaked out, and our brains played tricks on us. Or maybe graduation didn't really mean we escaped. Maybe some of us never leave school. I swear on everything, I should have never stayed late on my last day of school. It was supposed to be a happy day. No more homework, no more exams, no more dragging myself out of bed at 6 a.m. I remember walking through the hallways for the last time, touching the lockers, joking with my friends, just soaking it all in. That school had been my second home for years. But looking back, maybe I wasn't the only one saying goodbye that night. So here's what happened. The last day of school was always this bittersweet thing. Teachers pretending to be emotional, students running around like maniacs, signing yearbooks, throwing papers in the air. We had this unofficial tradition in my grade. On the last day, a bunch of us would sneak back into the school after dark, hang out in the gym, take dumb pictures, just one final memory before graduation. That night, it was me and 3 friends, Josh, Emily, and Tyler. We waited until the janitor's truck pulled out of the parking lot, then snuck around the back and went through the side door that never locked properly. Inside, the place felt different. You know how schools are always so loud during the day? Well, at night, every single sound echoes. Even our whispers felt too loud. We should have left right then. At first, it was fun. We ran through the hallways, messed around in the cafeteria, dared each other to open classrooms. But then, in the science wing, I noticed something weird. The lights were buzzing, flickering in this uneven way. Like not random, but almost patterned. Emily laughed it off, but Tyler said, "It's like Morse code or something." I brushed it off, but deep down, it made me uneasy. Then, as we walked toward the gym, I swore I heard footsteps behind us. Slow. Heavy. When I turned around, nothing. Just the empty hallway stretching forever. We got to the gym, set up our phones for pictures, and tried to relax. But the vibe was already off. That's when Josh noticed the bleachers. They were halfway pulled out, like someone had been sitting there recently. But the school had been empty for hours. We decided to ignore it, kept joking around, even played music off my speaker. For a few minutes, it almost felt normal again. Then the speaker cut out. I checked my phone, it was dead. But I swear, I'd charged it before coming. Everyone's phones started glitching. Emily's screen froze, Tyler's battery dropped from 70% to 0 in seconds. Josh muttered, "This place is haunted, man. We should bounce." And right then, we heard it. A laugh. From the bleachers. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was low, broken, almost like someone struggling to breathe while chuckling. We froze. I whispered, "Hello?" The gym stayed silent. We tried to leave. No joke, we ran straight for the side exit we came through. But the door wouldn't budge. Like it was locked from the outside. Tyler started pulling at it, slamming it with his shoulder, but nothing worked. That's when the PA system crackled on. A voice whispered through the speakers. "Last day." We all screamed. Emily dropped her backpack and bolted toward the front entrance. The rest of us followed, hearts pounding. But when we reached the lobby, something was off. The banners, the posters, the trophies in the case, all of it looked wrong. Older. Dustier. Like we'd stepped into some version of the school that hadn't been touched in decades. And hanging from the ceiling, where the graduation banner had been, was a single rope. A noose. At that point, Emily lost it. She screamed and tried to yank open the front doors, but they wouldn't move either. The lights above us flickered again, this time in that same pattern. Buzz. Buzz buzz. Buzz. Josh whispered, "It really is Morse code." But before we could figure it out, all the trophy cases shattered at once. Glass exploded everywhere. I hit the ground, covering my head, and that's when I felt it. A hand. Cold. Bony. Pressing down on my neck. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. It leaned close to my ear and whispered, "You don't graduate." I thrashed, clawed at the floor, and suddenly, it was gone. Just, gone. When I sat up, my friends were already at the door, somehow able to open it now. We sprinted into the parking lot and didn't stop running until we reached our cars. The next morning, when I came back to pick up my diploma, the school looked normal. No broken glass. No rope. No flickering lights. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. I told Josh about the hand on my neck. He looked at me, pale as hell, and said, "Dude, I saw it too. Right behind you. A man. In a cap and gown." To this day, I don't know what we saw that night. Maybe it was a prank gone too far. Maybe it was the ghost of some student who never made it out. Or maybe, the school doesn't want to let go of its last class. All I know is, if anyone dares sneak into their school at night, don't. Because something might be waiting for you on your last day too. And sometimes, I wonder if I really graduated that night. Or if part of me is still locked inside those halls.